he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open in the face.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's my man 100 back again with another episode of How's My Team. Sorry about my hair and the way that I look. Just woke up not that long ago, but it's Monday. We got to do this. So both games were on Saturday, both the Giants and the Power, and the Titans and Big Brother Brisbane Broncos, both playing around about the same time on Saturday. So how did Saturday actually go? Well, it went like shit. For both teams, but we'll get to that. So we'll start with the Titans. They're probably the bigger loss out of the two, I'd say, or I guess maybe not. It was another loss at Suncorp. We're playing in Brisbane against Brisbane in the Queensland Derby, or one of them, during the year, and it's a 30-point loss, 44 points to 14. And we shot ourselves in the foot, especially in the first half. 28 points to 0 at halftime. It's not like we didn't have our chances in the first half. In the last 10 minutes or so, they were dropping the ball a lot, Brisbane. So we had opportunities to attack, and we just couldn't score. We just didn't look like we were going to play well at all. And yeah, we were outscoring them in the second half. We scored 14 points, and then they put on a couple of tries at the end to make the scoreline 30. It was going to be more than that. We did score. I think we scored the last try. So yeah, not. Yeah, we did score the last try. Score the last try in the last minute or so of the game. Yeah, it was pretty average performance. It was better in the second half, but a lot of the players, it didn't look like we had any heart out there. And of course, with that loss, puts Brisbane at the moment in the 8. In fact, actually, I don't think they can drop out of the 8 at present, just due to the fact that obviously the Eels and the Dogs play today on the King's birthday, even though it's not the King's birthday, like the actual date of the King's birthday. It's just a public holiday for Australians on this day. Usually the first Monday of June was the Queen's birthday, obviously until she passed, and then obviously it's the King's. But yeah, so that definitely puts us at the bottom of the ladder. Even though, yes, the Eels do play today, they'd have to lose by 50, 60, or actually even more than that, yeah, 60 odd points. Because, yeah, we've only won 3 games, and the Eels have won 4, and yes, we've had 2 byes. But I don't really see where the wins are coming from, because we got the Eagles, the Seagulls next week on Friday at home, and then we got the Eels away, and then the Cowboys at home as well before the last bye of the year, and then we play the Broncos again. But yeah, I don't see how a win's going to come unless the Eagles again, like they did over the weekend, drop sack potatoes basically, and don't play well again. I doubt that. And the Eels, with Mitchell Moses will be back at that point, because I think Origin I think is the week before playing the Eels. Like the Queensland team's already been announced. There's a few players, including Bo Firma, that have been dropped, which I don't see how that's fair. I understand they're going for impact players, but Bo didn't really do anything wrong. And even then, even if he did anything wrong over the weekend, which he probably did a couple of times, everybody did on the team, because 44 points scored against. That's not just Bo's fault. It's everybody's fault, and it's putting more pressure on Des. It feels like Des is going to get fired from his job probably in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if the board and the chairman of the club do that. But it's not an issue of just the coach. Like, yes, I will not say that Des hasn't had his issues, obviously, especially in terms of point scoring, especially the last season and a half. There's been outliers, obviously, and even this year we've had outliers that have gone over 20, 30 points or so. But yeah, a lot of those points are less than 20 in most games, and that's not a score that can win a lot of games. Definitely needs to be more points than that. Again, I say it's a culture issue. It's been a losing mentality a lot with this team. We haven't went to finals in a long time, or in a few years now. I think it was 2021, I think was the last time we were in finals. And yes, we did get bundled out in the first round of finals. 2020 we were reasonably close. If the season wasn't shortened, with the momentum that we had, we could have possibly made it. If it was a normal season, obviously with COVID, it was a shortened season. With the momentum that we had, most likely we could have made finals, because we were winning a lot of games in like the back half of 2020. And yes, we made it to the finals in 2021 with the men's team. And yeah, we did get bundled out. But before that, I think it was 2010. And realistically, we haven't went to finals a lot as a team since 2007. And there's no excuse for that. It is a culture issue as well. And I wouldn't, like, with the board in particular, I don't know whether it's a situation where we change some of the members on the board, as I've said previously in a couple episodes, because I don't feel like we hear the board changes nearly as much as the coach. The coach has changed so many times over the last 10, 11 years or so, and we just haven't gotten better. And it's, Holbrook's had his issues, Des has had his issues, Neil Henry, before he got kicked out, had his issues. Garth Brennan had issues as well, pretty much his entire tenure there. We've had issues since Cartwright left, and it's just one of those things where someone on the board is just we need a change somewhere. We need a circuit breaker, and again, I don't know where the win's going to come from. So it's probably going to be just give us the wooden spoon now. I've given up a little bit. I've given up most of the year at this point, because I don't feel like we're going to get anywhere out of the bottom four at all. And our side isn't a bottom four side. In fact, yes, majority of the sides that are in the competition in the NRL are really good on paper, and ours is really good, especially with a good forward pack. But again, in saying that, there are players that are not playing as well as they should. They're not playing good football at all. Obviously, David Fafita obviously was an example early in the season, and he hasn't even gone back into the side. And his form has not been that great either in Queensland Cup. So I don't know where the answers will be coming from, honestly. We've got a 6-day break to Friday, playing at home. Thankfully, we don't have to travel. Manly is the one that's travelling, but who knows what happens on Friday, because I don't expect another win against Manly. And it's going to be like it was a couple of seasons ago, where it might even get close, but Manly still will beat us. So, yeah, we'll see. And we go to probably the more disappointing result of the two losses over the weekend, and that will be the Giants. They went down to Manuka Oval to play Port Adelaide Power, and they lost by 16 points. Realistically, it was 66 points to 50. It was 9 goals 12 to 7 goals 8. So inaccuracy didn't really harm Port Adelaide that much. We did lead at halftime. They did have a narrow lead in the first and the third quarters, but we just weren't good enough on the field. And I will say, the debuting ruckman actually did a really, really, really good job. Tom Green played some really good game, a really good game, but it was realistically the contest in the middle of the field. Jesse Hogan didn't score that many points, but again, he did actually score some goals this year, this game compared to last week, because he didn't actually get any goals last week and no score involvements whatsoever, which is a very rare thing. I think it was 40, 50 games since the last time he did that. But I will say, some of the defense was pretty good. We just kept giving away the ball and giving away possession in stupid kicks out of our defensive half, and not really the Orange Tsunami that we've had notoriety from in terms of moving it from the defensive half into the forward half and even scoring. It just wasn't working. We didn't score once from the stat was we didn't score any goals or any real points from moving the ball from the defensive half into a goal scoring opportunity. So I don't know what it is. We tend to not play reasonably well at Manuka Oval. I know we've got to travel, and it's a decent amount of travel. Again, Port Adelaide have got to travel from Adelaide to Canberra, and it is a longer trip because, the distance between Sydney and Melbourne, it's right in the middle of Canberra. In between those two cities, the distance is exactly the same. It might be a couple of centimetres either way, but the distance between Sydney and Melbourne, and Melbourne and Canberra and Sydney and Canberra is exactly the same, and Adelaide is further away from Melbourne, so they got to travel further. And I don't know what it is, but we don't seem to play that well at Manuka Oval for whatever reason, because this year we haven't won there at all, I don't think. Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania, Sydney, Norwood. Yeah, the Bulldogs beat us by 32. But then again, the Bulldogs are a good team, and they really, really put it up against us that game, to be fair, and they were just fully getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, it puts pressure on this team to stay in the 8, which they did, thankfully, with buys happening, which obviously was Fremantle and the Saints this week. Fremantle stayed in 8th, and with the Western Bulldogs losing on Thursday, it kind of helped us a little bit because they lost against Hawthorn. So we stay in 7th at the moment with 7 wins and 6 losses with 28 points. But it was one of those games that could really could have helped us get closer into the top 4. Obviously, we probably weren't going to go into the top 4 with obviously the congestion of Hawthorn, the Suns, and Geelong and all those types of teams, and even Geelong won, so they're on 36 points at the moment, so they're 2 games ahead at presently. So we stay in 7th. Obviously, Fremantle stay in 8th, no matter what the result is today, because Collingwood and Melbourne still have to play at this point. But Brisbane losing against Adelaide makes it interesting for next week. Obviously, we do go up to the Gabba against Brisbane. So it's 2nd versus 7th. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Brisbane have not been playing reasonably well. They played decently in the first half of their game against Adelaide. And then they didn't score a single goal in the fourth quarter. They scored a couple in the third quarter, but Adelaide just kept pressure on them and really overturned it because I think they were 3 goals in front, I think, at three-quarter time, Brisbane over Adelaide, and then the Crows scored like 3 or 4 goals pretty quickly in the first half of the last quarter, and then inaccuracy hit Brisbane like a truck because they just kept missing. They had opportunities to win that game and ice it, but they just didn't score any goals. They kept missing, including a couple of them that missed points completely that went out on the full. So it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, it's the rematch of the semi-final from last year, which, of course, if you remember, the Brisbane Lions came from behind and came from the clouds to come home with a huge wet sail and beat the Giants. The Giants, I think, were 20, 30 points up in the first half to the second half, and literally they did the same thing as they did against Sydney the previous game in the qualifying final as well. So it'll be interesting to see that. It is a mid-Saturday game. It is a 1:20 p.m. game for me. So I'll be watching it as much as I possibly can. It's going to be interesting to see how Brisbane do go against the Giants and whether Brisbane get back to form or whether the Giants can sneak out a win, because after that we go home and play the Suns at Ingy. So Expansion Cup, going to be an interesting game. Who knows what the hell's going to happen, because like at this point with the Giants, I don't even know. I think it was Nick Mannon, I think was the ruckman. Have I got the team list here? I do. Yeah, Nick Mannon, yeah. Yeah, so he didn't score any points, but he played his first AFL game and actually did really well in the ruck, because the ruck position is not an easy one. Obviously, he wasn't the only ruckman that was in there. Jake Riccardi did some ruck work as well, as he tends to do when he's playing with Kieran Briggs. Kieran Briggs is out obviously with an ankle complaint. There was a few players obviously that were out. Obviously, Callum Ward, which we still don't know necessarily the diagnosis. It's still an issue with his knee, but we haven't heard anything really on the severity of the knee issue. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a tough game against Brisbane, against the team in the top 4, and arguably we got to play at the best of our ability despite what personnel we might have. Whether it's Kieran Briggs gets back in, whether he doesn't, whether we don't have all our, top 22 players or so, doesn't matter. We just got to play well. Because Brisbane, after a couple of disappointing performances, they are looking to strike back and strike back hot, because they want a top 2 spot. They want a home final, and I know there's still plenty of the season to go, but winning games is going to make things easier. So, yeah, to stay in the top 8, we got to start winning some of these big games, and this is the first one that we need to win. So we'll see what happens on Saturday afternoon at the Gabba when the Giants take on the Lions. And that'll be it for this episode of How's My Team. We don't have too much miscellaneous stuff to go over. The Stanley Cup final, it's 1-1 at the moment. I think the next game plays today, possibly tomorrow. Edmonton won the first game I believe they won it in normal time. And obviously the Florida Panthers won in double overtime in the second game. So So yeah, 1-1 in the Stanley Cup. News coming out of the Spurs, not yesterday, I think it might have been Saturday morning. Ange Postecoglou, the coach of the Tottenham Hotspurs, the coach that won their first silverware in like 17 years, got sacked for whatever reason. I know their result in the Premier League was not great. In fact, they're right near the relegation zone. But the issue, yes, okay, Premier League is probably your main thing, but it's funny when it's a coach that's won the first silverware for your club in almost 2 decades, and there's a European Cup as well, so you're getting Champions League qualification on top of that for next season, and you sack him before you even make it. And what's going to be funnier for me if this happens to Tottenham Hotspur, and I'm not saying that to the fans, I'm not saying it to the team, I'm also saying it to especially the chairman and the board that come up with this decision. What happens if Tottenham Hotspur do actually get relegated, do actually do worse than they did this season, or get embarrassed in the Champions League and actually do worse in Premier League? Because you can't complain to Ange because it's not Ange's fault. He's not the coach anymore. So who do you blame then? Because ultimately, at this point, something like a Europa League trophy being won by this club, first silverware, like I said, in 17 years, a lot of these players on this team, in fact, almost every single player on that team had not had success that had been there at Tottenham for well over a couple of seasons. I think obviously Nick Maddison was there still. He's obviously coming from Liverpool and he won in 2020. Winning the Premier League title there, but and winning a few other trophies at that as well. But a lot of that team, including some of your key stars in that side, had not won anything with Tottenham Hotspurs. You finally win something, which probably gives you a boost in confidence for the season coming up, and then you sack the coach. So what happens to the morale of the players? Because there's some players that really liked playing under Ange, including Son. I forget what his last name is because I can never pronounce it, but obviously their key striker for Tottenham said some really nice things about Ange. What happens to him if he transfers or he doesn't play well, and Tottenham play worse than they have, and they don't get any really good signings in the transfer window and obviously in the off season, then what happens? Like, you kind of shot yourself in the foot, and it's another situation with the coach that's on a merry-go-round at Tottenham, because they've had success, and realistically they could have won more trophies than they have in the last 17 years, because they had a Champions League final against Liverpool, and they sacked the coach just before that. Like, some of the decisions that comes from the chairman of this team just doesn't make any sense. I understand Premier League is probably your main focus, and you're trying to do well there, but being in the top 8 or being in the top 4, 6, 8 positions on the Premier League table and not winning anything, including Manchester City. Manchester City were in the top 4 this year at the end of the Premier League season. And apart from the Community Shield, they hadn't won anything all year. They've been in finals, but they had not won anything. But Tottenham, 17th position. But, won some silverware. But yeah, you're fired. I don't understand it. It's just a weird decision on my part. I understand to some fans are saying, yes, we need this. But let's remember, even the fact that we're in 17th, they had a goal difference of -1. They're just above the relegation zone, and they're only behind by 1 goal from being square in terms of scoring and scored against. Out of 20 positions in the Premier League, that's unheard of, usually. Usually with a lot of teams, it's maybe a team that's in the bottom of the 10 You're looking at 11th, 12th, right down to maybe 14th is probably possible. But unlikely lower than that. But 17th, having a goal difference of -1. So obviously you were scoring goals. Yes, you conceded some goals because you had to if you've lost a few games, and you drew quite a few games. Let's be real, you didn't lose as many games as you probably could have. And yet you sacked the coach. Just boggles my mind, honestly. But I don't know. Honest to God, I have no idea. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think we have to really talk about anything else. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. Obviously, we'll talk about it next week in terms of the Friday game and the Saturday afternoon game. So we'll see what happens in terms of recording. I probably should be able to record this on Sunday, or at least the Giants part, because I might have a situation where I record the Titans part on Saturday morning. But we'll see how we go. It should be out. It should be done by Sunday anyway. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for done it again. Done the outro badly again. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Man 100. You guys have a great day and night, and of course, take care.